So one topic I've really been sitting with lately is the idea of fear. And Bruno Groening, straightforward said just how destructive fear is, and um, that in fact he said fear is from evil and is evil. And in reflecting on our lives, which Bruno called us to do, to reflect on every thought, word, and deed. If we really reflect on our lives, we'll notice, I've noticed, and I don't think I'm the first person to notice this, that so many of negative thoughts and negative thoughts and negative actions are caused by fear. And so first and foremost, when we're experiencing fear, the first thing is to be mindful of it, to catch ourselves. Like fear can be an alarm clock. Fear can let us know, oh, I've disconnected from God and I've connected to evil. I mean, Bruno Groening didn't mince words about the power of fear. And when we're in fear, we're no longer in a state of faith and trust with the divine. So it's very important to catch ourselves, to recognize when we've taken on fear. Because when we say yes to fear, it's not, we don't consciously do it, but we're saying yes to evil. And it's only going to take us. And, Bruno very clearly pointed out you can't expect anything good from evil. All that's going to come from evil is evil. So now the thing is in the end, what we can learn on this path is actually that there's actually nothing to fear. There's really no reason to be afraid. Now, the mind or the thoughts, fear, evil, will give us 1,000 reasons to be afraid. And the question is, are any of them true? Are any of them valid? Or do any of them mean that we have to be afraid? Is fear necessary? Is actually what I'm asking. And Bruno Groening said no. He said that um, we can be mindful of danger, but that we don't need to be fearful. In fact, he said that he gave this very extreme example. He's like, if you're on a boat and you're in the middle of the ocean and your boat's taking on water, you don't have to be afraid if you know what you are and who made you. Meaning, if we know that we're a soul and we know that God made us, that it's actually, there's no reason to have fear if we have trust, if we trust in God. He said, you could just calmly bail the water out. Now, this is a very radical claim and statement because our lives are, as human beings, we're in the habit of not trusting in God and hence trusting these negative thoughts and, in a sense, trusting fear. Like it's such a deeply entrenched habit. Maybe one of the deepest habits we have as human beings is not trusting God. And the result of that is fear. And Bruno Groening just straightforward says it's not necessary. He even went so far as to say it's self-deception, it's arrogance, and it's ignorance to not trust God. In fact, I've said this many times as Bruno quoted a German proverb, whoever trusts in God's right hand has not built on sinking sand. Meaning, if we trust in God, we have a solid, firm foundation for life. And if we don't, well, we've built We've built our life on sinking sand. So after quoting that proverb, Bruno Groening said, "That is truth. That is reality. Everything else is just arrogance, self-deception, arrogance of ignorant human beings." So anything other than trusting God, according to Bruno Groening, isn't, he says, in a sense, it's not even real because it's based on inaccurate information. Not that the experience of fear doesn't happen. I'm not saying that, but it's based on something unreal. It's based on something untrue. It's like, you know, there's a famous Indian parable about, someone goes out to their, I don't remember, maybe it's a shed, and they just go out at night and they see a snake, and they're very scared, and they go tell someone, and someone comes over and says, and shines some light on it and says, "Oh, actually it's a rope." And as soon as the person sees that, then all the fear is gone, because the fear was based on an illusion, actually something not true. And it's the same thing. If we, um, the illusion in this case is not thinking that God's in control, not thinking that God is um, trustworthy or worthy of trust. And from there, a whole series of, distortions happen. And so, what Bruno calls us to is absolute faith, absolute trust in the divine. And once we can get to that point, then fear can just fall away, because it's based on something not real, not so. It's based on an untrue thought and some untrue assumptions about life. So, in essence, there really is nothing to fear because God is good and God's in charge. And anything that tells us contrary is an illusion, a delusion, arrogance, self deception, and ignorance. It is just as the person saw something who wasn't there, they misunderstood what was going on. They perceived a rope as a snake when actually it was a rope. Now, we can have all sorts of thoughts and judgments that seem to say, "Oh, God isn't in control. The God isn't good. The good won't prevail." But it's actually, we're just misperceiving. We're not seeing things correctly. And that's not to say that life isn't challenging sometimes. But when challenges come, then then there's kind of two ways of thinking. We can either think, "Oh my God, life is crazy, nothing there." That's evil's thought system. Or there's another one like, "Oh, this is a challenge. I'm okay. God's got me." Or however you want to language it. But we place one of those two thought systems on top of the situation. And that's where we find freedom or we get in trouble. So there's nothing to fear because fear is based in a lie.